Hey, I'm Julian from SCSS, and I'm here with Kayla, one of our OTs, and Selena, who is a parent of a patient here. And so today we're going to talk about sensory integration and regulation and why it's so important for your kiddos. So Selena, can you talk about why you sought out OT services for your daughter?
I noticed that her tantrums were really frequent, so she had one. She had really quick triggers after that. So I hear the word regulate, but I didn't fully understand what regulate meant. I thought regulate meant just make sure she's happy. So what I struggle with the most is once she has a tantrum, she's able to calm down to a certain extent, and then in the next 5-10 minutes, if something upsets her, she then has like another episode, is what I call them. So then I could have a really good day or a really bad day where they're just frequent. So that's like one of the hardest things I deal with, because then I have to, find my happy medium, and that way I don't take it out on her.
Yep.
So that's one of the hugest things I deal with.
Yeah.
So when she's good, and when she's bad, she's bad.
So let's talk about like what regulating means, right? Because I feel like you're like a lot of parents who are like, as parents, we don't know what the heck we're doing, right? We're doing the best that we can, and we're hoping that what we're doing is making things better, not worse. So like, if somebody says, well, you got to regulate them, I'm sure lots of parents can relate to you. What does that mean? So Kayla, can you explain a little bit about like, what does it mean to be regulated?
Yeah, so regulation just really means you're in a calm, happy, almost like ready to learn type of state. And so you may have a child who she kind of ebbs and flows, she goes back and forth. However, whenever she's in those more like high arousal states, she might not be able to bring herself back down to that more regulated state of just being happy, ready to learn, playing, that type of thing. So that's what we see when we're regulated. When we're unregulated, we see lots of tantrums, meltdowns, or even just a shutdown of just like not doing anything or not able to learn or play or engage in other social activities or play activities. So I feel like that's when every kid is a little bit different and a sensory diet may come into play. So a sensory diet is, I like to think of it as meals throughout the day. So everyone needs their own meals, like for nutrition throughout the day. Certain kids need a certain sensory diet throughout the day as well, of little meals of sensory input that they may need to help them feel more regulated. And each kid is very, very different whenever we're talking about that. So that's why we use different things like the sensory profile and the sensory processing measure that ask you a bunch of questions about all her different senses: vision, hearing, oral, body position. All those different questions gave me a good idea of, okay, she's having more issues in one area versus another area. So that brings us into, we have different types of sensory categories that you can kind of put kids into. So we have sensory avoiders and we have sensory seekers. So I have a little demonstration down here. I can kind of explain what that means. Say we have a regulated state. This is like our normal size cup right in the middle here. If we pour water into that, we'll do about the same amounts of each in each. It fills up nice and perfect, kind of to the top. It's not overflowing and it's not, too little either. However, this little cup is like our sensory avoiders. You may see someone who is wearing headphones out in public. They may kind of in their environment kind of get too much sensory stimulation. So if I pour the same amount that I did in this one, it's going to overflow. And then that person only has such a small threshold of sensory information that they can tolerate before they shut down. And then our sensory seekers, sometimes I like to use a bucket, but we'll use this cup for example, but we pour the same amount and it's just not full. And some of our sensory seekers, it's like a bucket that has holes in it. We give them more and more and more sensory information and it just feels like they can't get enough. And therefore, they're not in this happy, regulated state, and they're just kind of bouncing off the walls, jumping, climbing, kind of all over the place, and you just don't know what to do. those are our sensory seekers because they're just not getting that sensory input the way that they should be, like they are.
I feel like as a parent and as a therapist, I've learned a lot about sensory regulation and how to regulate my kids. What are some ways that parents could implement these to get their kids regulated, give them the sensory input that they need throughout the day?
Kids love what we call vestibular input, and that's any kind of thing you're changing their body position in, like spinning, jumping, swinging, climbing, all those types of things. Those are great ways to get more of that sensory input, but they're also what we call alerting strategies. So we want to provide some of those alerting strategies, but we need to follow them with more calming strategies. So more calming strategies are really anything that you put pressure on your joints. So you can do kind of like, we like to call that heavy work, anything where you're pushing something heavy or pulling something heavy, like grab your laundry basket, have them pull it, have them push it around, or a box. You could also do animal walks, you could do frog jumps, you could do bear crawls. Anything where they're getting that pressure on their joints is going to be more of a calming activity. So how I like to explain that as well is we all feel dysregulated in our environments throughout our just daily stressors of life. Even I feel dysregulated when I'm stressed out. Even though I may not want to go work out, I still make myself go work out, and then I feel better afterwards. It's the same thing as I'm putting the stresses on my joints because that's where our sensory system and regulators.
I feel like as a parent and as a therapist, there were things that like I didn't know. Like I learned from my son's OT that after I spin him really fast in a chair or swing, it's so important to give that deep pressure afterwards, which I didn't know. And so I feel like it's so important for parents to, even if it's just a monthly check-in of how can I help regulate my child at home, touching base with an OT so that they can learn what their child's specific sensory needs are, because even with everything that I knew, I still wasn't doing the right things, right? And so it's so important to really get that assessed and kind of learn how you can give the right support to your kids so that you're not either overstimulating them or understimulating them. And then Selena, you've implemented some really fun ideas at home recently since working with Kayla with OT. What are some ways that you've been incorporating that sensory input at home since starting OT?
I said pushing things, and I did hear from OT saying push things, just however push things, but I didn't understand what she really meant by pushing it, because I didn't understand like the fact that like that would help her regulate and get her energy out. Even by pushing something, it kind of just triggers her. But one thing I've been incorporating is doing hops. She loves Frozen, so one thing we've been doing is we like play and we pretend that she's Anna and I am Elsa, and she's hopping on pillows, like literally just a line of pillows. So she'll hop on pillows and pretty much will get her sensory out. She'll fall on the ground and I'm like, oh my gosh, Elsa, Anna, are you okay? I'm so sorry. And then we just do it over and over and over again. And I definitely do that. I work from home, so we do that right before I am going to sit down on the computer. We give her that attention, that 101, and then she has gotten a lot better. I definitely have seen a huge switch in her. Some days are good, some days are bad, where she just needs a little bit more attention. So yeah, that's what we're kind of just dealing with at the moment. So
that kind of like that bucket, like she has that bucket, she needs more and more and more, almost to fill her bucket, to fill her sensory needs in order to feel that regulated calm.
Yes, and I'm taking more breaks in between. So I try to work 4 hours straight. So in between that 4 hours, I do try to do 1 hour, and then once the hour finishes, try to do something else with her, and then go back to work. Let her know once I'm done, I'm gonna go back to you, and we can go ahead and play.
I love that hopping. Crashing is a great way, I feel like, as a calming activity, like pulling off all the cushions or jumping into a pile of pillows. Sometimes I feel is one of the best regulators that I've found. In the home, you can do so easily too.
So my thing is, how do you know what your child is? A seeker, what was the middle one called?
Just regular, and then like an avoider.
So how do you know your child?
It's really hard. That's where I think OT comes into play, where if you are seeing like those frequent tantrums or shutdowns or meltdowns, they can come and we can give them that sensory profile, and the OT can learn about that child and provide recommendations for you to trial at home. You give me feedback, and that helps me learn a lot more about her in order to help educate you and learn more about her as well.
So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment, shoot us a message. If you have a kid who is having those frequent meltdowns, tantrums, and you're just like, I don't really know what to do, I've done everything that I can, it may be beneficial to reach out to an OT and see how that they can help. They can, like Kayla said, give that sensory profile, really break down your child and what their sensory needs are, and find out, are they a sensory seeker, are they a avoider, and how you can implement strategies in your home.